The wedding invitation showed up on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Maya was at the kitchen table, hunched over her calculus homework. When she found it, she spotted it before I did, nestled in our pile of mail like it belonged there. "Mom, look," she called out, her voice bubbling with excitement. Jennifer's wedding invitation just came. I was in the living room folding towels when I heard her. Maya came skipping in, holding the envelope like it was a golden ticket. "Can I open it?" she asked, already tearing the seal before I could answer. That's just how Maya is 16 years old, and still enchanted by anything with glitter and gold foil. After all she'd been through before she became mine, that light in her had never dimmed. She smoothed the invitation out on our scratched-up coffee table, the one with the faded water ring from her nightly glass of milk. "Isn't this beautiful? And look, it's at the Riverside Country Club. Jennifer's going all out." I leaned in, reading over her shoulder. "Jennifer Marie Stevens and Derek William Harrison request the honor of your presence. Cocktails at 6, dinner at 7. Black tie optional. We'll need to go shopping," Maya said, eyes already sparkling with ideas. "I've been saving up my babysitting money. Maybe I can finally get that navy dress we saw at Nordstrom Rack last month." My heart ached a little, watching her light up like that. Maya had been chasing Jennifer's approval since the day I brought her home. My biological daughter had never fully embraced the idea of suddenly having a little sister, especially not one who hadn't been born into our family. "I'm going to call Jennifer, just to confirm the details," I said, reaching for my phone. Jennifer picked up on the second ring. "Mom, did you just get the invite? Maya's over the moon. She's already planning her outfit." There was a brief pause on the line, a small one. But after 35 years of raising Jennifer, I could hear an entire conversation in her silences. "About that," she began slowly. "I need to talk to you about something." My stomach tightened. I'd heard that tone before, usually right before she said something that would leave a mark. "What is it, sweetheart?" "Derek and I decided the wedding should be for immediate family and close friends, you know, something intimate. I'm sure you understand." I sank down onto the couch. "Family and close friends. Jennifer, what are you saying? I mean, Maya can't come." "She's not really family, Mom. She's adopted." The words hit me like a slap. I glanced toward the kitchen, where Maya was still admiring the invitation, probably imagining herself twirling on the dance floor. "Did you just say my daughter isn't family?" "My adopted daughter, yes," Jennifer replied flatly. "That's what she is. You adopted her because you were lonely and grieving, not because she's actual family. There's a difference." I shut my eyes, feeling something inside me crack. Jennifer Marie Stevens. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Look, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings," Jennifer continued. "But Maya just doesn't fit with Derek's crowd. His parents are doctors and CEOs and people who fly private for weekend weddings. What's she going to talk about? Her part-time job at the bookstore? Her community college plans? That was it." My voice dropped into that calm, quiet register I'd used when Jennifer was little, when she'd gone too far and knew it. "Maya has a 4.2 GPA. She was accepted early to Washington State with a partial scholarship. But you wouldn't know that, because you've never once asked about her accomplishments." "That's not the point," Jennifer snapped. "Then what is? Explain to me why a girl who's lived in this family since she was 8 isn't considered family to you." "Because she's not really family," Jennifer's voice cracked. "All pretense gone. She's just some kid you picked up from a foster agency because you couldn't handle that Dad died and I moved on with my life. You replaced us with her. The cruelty of it knocked the breath from my chest. Replaced you? You mean the daughter who skips every monthly dinner, ignores phone calls, and rolls her eyes when Maya tries to talk to her. Jennifer, you're 35 with a fiancé and a full-time job. Maya is still a child. She needs guidance, not rejection. That's not replacement, that's being a mother. Well, she said coldly, your other daughter isn't invited. The invitations are out. The seating chart's done. And Derek's parents specifically said they don't want strangers at their family celebration. Strangers, I echoed, like the word had turned sour in my mouth. You know what I mean. No, Jennifer, I said, my voice steady. I really don't. She's not a Stevens by blood. She's not Dad's granddaughter. She's just some kid with abandonment issues who got lucky when you were at your lowest. That was the line. The one she never should have crossed. She knew what Maya had survived before she came to us. She knew everything. And still she reduced her to some kid. I see, I said. Cold now. Have you and Derek had this conversation together? This rule about bloodlines and belonging? Derek agrees with me. His family's really into tradition. They don't understand why you'd complicate things by adopting at your age. I stood up and walked to the mantel. Framed photos lined the shelf. Maya's honor roll certificates beside Jennifer's baby pictures. Volunteer awards tucked beside WSU's acceptance letter. Jennifer, I said firmly, listen to me. If Maya's not welcome at your wedding, then neither am I, Mom. Don't be dramatic. This isn't about you. You're right, I said. It's about Maya. A little girl who lost her parents and spent years in foster care before I was lucky enough to become her mother. It's about a young woman who has really tried to be your sister, and who just heard you call her a stranger. You're being ridiculous. She get over it. She get over it. I almost laughed. This child, my child, was already dreaming of the dress she'd wear to your wedding. And now, she's not my sister, Jennifer hissed. The words echoed through the house. From the kitchen, I heard the soft crinkle of paper go still. Maya had heard every word. Well, I said quietly, then I guess we have nothing more to talk about. Enjoy your wedding, Jennifer. I hung up, and then I sat in the heavy silence that followed. After a moment, Maya stepped into the living room. The invitation was still in her hands, her face a perfect mask of calm for a 16-year-old. I heard, she said softly. I patted the cushion beside me. She walked over and curled up next to me, just like she used to when she first moved in and couldn't sleep through the night. I'm sorry, baby girl. It's okay, she whispered, but her voice was thin, almost weightless. I kind of figured Jennifer didn't want me there anyway. She never really wants me anywhere. Those words hurt worse than anything Jennifer had said, because Maya wasn't wrong. She had really tried for years to be a sister to someone who had never offered her a real chance. Maya, look at me. She turned those deep, dark eyes toward me. The same eyes that had once been guarded and hollow when I first met her in that crowded social services office. What Jennifer said about you not being real family, that's not true. Not even a little bit. But she's right about one thing, Maya said. I'm not a Stevens. Not by blood. I took a deep breath and tucked a stray curl behind her ear. Sweetheart, do you want to know what makes someone real family? She nodded. Real family shows up. Real family is there for the big moments and the hard ones. Real family sees your worth even when the world tries to say otherwise. You've been more family to me than most people with my last name. Even after what she said, she asked quietly. The question hung in the air between us, a question wrapped in years of hope, rejection, and trying. Jennifer is my daughter, and I love her, I said, but she's chosen to see you as competition instead of a blessing. That's her loss, not yours. Maya rested her head on my shoulder. Are you really not going to the wedding? Not if my daughter isn't welcome. What if you regret it? What if she never forgives you? I thought about that. About Jennifer in her white dress. About the pictures I'd never be in. The grandchildren I might never hold. Maya, sometimes doing what's right costs you something precious. But not doing what's right, that costs you something even more precious, your integrity. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then finally, so, what are we doing on Saturday instead? I smiled, a small warmth rising in my chest. A decision made, a line drawn, a strange kind of peace. Well, that depends, I said. What would you like to do on Saturday night? She gave a slow smile. For once, something that doesn't require a fancy dress. Something where we don't have to prove we belong. We sat together on our old couch, in our worn but cozy living room. Outside, the Seattle rain tapped gently against the window panes. Inside, it felt like safety, like home. The next morning, my phone rang before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. Gloria, what is going on? My sister Carol snapped through the speaker, skipping pleasantries. Jennifer called me in tears last night. She says you're refusing to come to her wedding. I walked over to the window, watching Maya disappear down the street with her backpack slung over one shoulder. She moved like nothing had happened, but the slight droop in her posture told me otherwise. Did she tell you why I'm not going? I asked. She said something about Maya feeling left out. But honestly, Gloria, teenagers are dramatic. Sometimes you just have to put your foot down with them. I counted to 3 before replying. Carol, Jennifer told me Maya couldn't come because she's not real family. There was silence on the other end. Then a sigh. Well, technically. Technically what? I asked, keeping my voice level. She's not blood, and Jennifer has a right to decide who attends her wedding. I pulled the phone away from my ear for a second, stunned. My own sister. Carol, Maya's been part of this family since she was 8. She calls you Aunt Carol. She makes you birthday cards. I know she's a sweet girl, Carol said carefully. But there's a difference between being nice to your sister's adopted kid and treating her like actual family. Jennifer shouldn't have to pretend Maya is her real sister just to make you feel better about your choices. My choices, as if loving a child who needed love was some kind of moral failure. I took a breath. What do you think I should do then? Apologize to Jennifer. Go to the wedding alone? Maya will understand. She's used to disappointment. That last sentence gutted me. As if being used to pain made it okay to give her more. No, Carol, I said, I won't do that. Well, then you're being selfish, stubborn. This is Jennifer's day, not Maya's therapy session. I hung up on her. I didn't want to hear another word. 20 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time, it was Jason Carroll's son. Aunt Gloria, he began, his tone gentle, like he was the reasonable one in all this. Mom asked me to call you. She thinks you might listen to me since I'm not emotional about it. Jason was 28 and had always been kind to Maya at family gatherings. I allowed myself a flicker of hope. It didn't last. Look, I get that you're trying to protect Maya's feelings, he said, but maybe this is actually a good teaching moment for her. You know, about how life isn't fair, that she won't always be included. A teaching moment, I repeated. Yeah, I mean, she's had a good life with you, right? Nice home, good school, support. Maybe it's time she understood that adoption doesn't always mean full acceptance. I sat down hard at the kitchen table. Suddenly, I felt every year of my life settle onto my shoulders. Jason, I said slowly, what if someone told you your cousins couldn't come to your wedding because they weren't real family? That's different. We grew up together. Maya has been in this family since she was 8. But she's not actually family, Jason said, trying to sound kind. Jennifer doesn't owe her anything. I didn't answer. I just hung up again. And then I turned off my phone completely. I sat alone in the kitchen, watching morning light spill across the table where Maya did her homework every night. Where just the day before, she had carefully unfolded Jennifer's wedding invitation with that hopeful little smile of hers. Around noon, a knock came at the front door. I peeked through the peephole and saw my other sister, Linda, standing on the porch, casserole dish in hand. I opened the door, and she stepped inside like she owned the place. Gloria Stevens, she said sternly, setting the dish on my coffee table like it was an offering. We need to talk about you blowing up your relationship with your daughter over a child who isn't even yours. I leaned against the front door and let out a slow breath. Maya is mine, Linda, in every way that matters. No, she's not, Linda replied, planting herself on the couch where Maya and I had curled up the night before. She's a foster kid you got attached to. There's a difference. She's not a foster kid. She's adopted. She's legally my daughter. Linda waved a dismissive hand. Legally, sure, but blood is blood. Jennifer is your real daughter. Milo's just a project. That word again. Linda, get out of my house. She blinked, clearly not expecting that. Gloria, I'm just trying to help you see reason. Get out, I said again, this time firmer. You're making a mistake that'll cost you your real daughter. I walked to the front door and held it open. Leave. Linda stood slowly, smoothing her skirt like her composure hadn't just cracked. When this all goes wrong, she warned, and Morrow breaks your heart like these kids always do, don't come crying to me. I shut the door behind her and slid the deadbolt into place. Then I sat at Maya's usual spot at the kitchen table. I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls, 12 texts. All of them from family members telling me I was being unreasonable, that I was choosing the wrong daughter, that I was ruining Jennifer's special day for someone who wasn't even mine. I deleted them all without reading past the first line. Later that afternoon, Maya came home from school and found me still sitting there. She dropped her backpack by the door. Rough day, she asked, heading to the fridge. You could say that. She grabbed an apple, took a bite, and leaned against the counter. How many people called to tell you I'm not worth skipping the wedding over? The kid was too sharp for her own good. A few, she chewed thoughtfully, then said, want to hear what happened at school? Of course. Kayla Rodriguez asked if I was excited for Jennifer's wedding. I told her I wasn't going. She asked why, so I told her the truth. You know what she said. I waited. She said that's messed up. And if her sister ever did that, she'd never speak to her again. Maya took another bite. Then she said her family would never leave someone out just for being adopted. Because that's not what real families do. I smiled for the first time all day. Kayla sounds like a smart girl. She is. She also invited us to her family's barbecue on Saturday. Her dad got promoted, and they're celebrating. What did you tell her? I said I'd ask you, but honestly, burgers with people who actually want us around sounds better than sitting here being sad. She wasn't wrong. Tell Kayla we'd love to come. Maya grinned and started toward her room. At the doorway, she paused. Mom, yes, thanks for picking me. I looked at her, my girl, my miracle, and smiled. Always, baby, always. 3 days before the wedding, my phone rang again. This time, it was Derek. Mrs. Stevens, this is Derek Harrison. I think we need to clear the air. I was in the garden, pulling weeds around the tomato plants Maya and I had planted in the spring. The normalcy of it felt grounding. What air do we need to clear, Derek? He hesitated, then said, this misunderstanding about the wedding. Jennifer is really upset. We both want you there, but not Maya. Well, that's what I wanted to discuss. Maybe there's a middle ground. I stood up, brushed dirt from my knees, and headed toward the porch. What kind of middle ground? She could come to the ceremony, or maybe help with the setup during the day. Just not at the reception. We're trying to keep that part intimate, just close family and friends. I stopped walking. The sheer audacity stunned me. He wanted Maya to serve at the wedding she wasn't good enough to attend. Let me ask you something, Derek. How many people are invited to this wedding? Around 120. And how many of those are actually family? He paused. Maybe 30, 35, tops. So nearly 90 people who aren't blood relatives are allowed. But Maya, who's been in this family since she was 8, isn't? They're not strangers, he argued. They're friends, colleagues, important people in our lives. In your lives, I corrected him. Clearly not in mine. This isn't personal, he said quickly. Maya seems like a lovely girl. But she's not Jennifer's sister by blood. This is about tradition, about preserving family legacy. I sat down on the porch steps, watching a neighbor walk his dog past our yard. Derek, what's your mother's maiden name? Excuse me, her maiden name. Humor me. Thompson. Why, so when she married your father, she stopped being a Thompson and became a Harrison. Did that make her any less family? That's different, he said quickly. Is it? She wasn't born a Harrison. She chose to become one, just like Maya chose to become a Stevens. Marriage is between adults, he said stiffly. Adoption is. It's different. Different how? I'm trying to find a solution here. Jennifer loves you and wants you at the wedding, but my family has expectations about how these events are handled. I looked out at the garden Maya and I had planted together. The tomato plants were growing strong. Derek, I said, there's no compromise that involves treating my daughter like she's less than. She's either welcome as my child, or she's not. And if she's not, then neither am I. That's unreasonable. No, I said calmly. That's being a mother. Jennifer said you'd say that. She also said if you miss the wedding, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I glanced at the garden, at the small life we'd built. A life full of quiet joys and chosen love. Tell Jennifer, I said, that I've already lived with a lot of regrets. But standing up for Maya won't be one of them. I regret not speaking up sooner. I regret letting people treat her as less than. I regret every time I stayed silent when someone made her feel like she didn't belong. I watched a butterfly flutter around the sunflowers. But I won't regret this. So that's it, he asked. You're really not coming. That's it. I hung up. Then I stayed in the garden until Maya came home from school. She found me sitting cross-legged between the tomato rows. Rough call, she asked, settling beside me. Derek tried to offer a compromise. You could go to the ceremony, but not the reception. Maya snorted. Wow. So I get to sit through the vows, but not taste the cake. I told him no good. She picked up a small stone and tossed it toward the fence. You know what I realized today? What's that? I keep trying to make Jennifer love me. But you can't make someone choose you. They either do or they don't. She looked over at me with eyes that had seen more than they should have at 16. But you chose me every single day for 8 years. And that means more than 100 people who share my DNA but don't share my life. I reached for her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear, the kind of day people describe as perfect wedding weather. But instead of sitting stiffly in a pew at a country club, Maya and I were at Kayla's family barbecue. The backyard buzzed with laughter and the smoky scent of grilled corn and ribs. People welcomed us like we belonged. No qualifiers, no hesitations, just welcome. Kayla's aunts complimented Maya on her hair. Her uncle asked about her plans for college. When Maya talked about her acceptance to WSU, they beamed like she was one of their own. Later, as the kids played volleyball on the lawn, Kayla's father, Miguel, pulled me aside. He spoke quietly, just loud enough to be heard over the sound of kids shouting and music playing. My wife told me what happened with your family, he said gently. I just want you to know it takes real courage to do what you did for your daughter. I didn't do anything special, I replied. I just did what any mother would do. No, he said firmly. You did what a good mother should do. There's a difference. We left just after sunset, full of warm food and warmer hearts. The ride home was quiet. Maya sat in the passenger seat, the cool breeze from the open window brushing her hair back. Regrets? I asked softly, about missing the wedding. She shook her head. No. Then she turned to me. But I am sad about Jennifer. I always hoped. I nodded. I know, baby. I hope to. Do you think she'll ever change? I thought about that as I pulled into the driveway. The porch light was on. Maya always reminded me to leave it on before we went out. I think Jennifer's going to have to decide what kind of person she wants to be and what kind of family she wants to have. We can't make that decision for her. Maya nodded slowly and headed inside. She had homework waiting, deadlines looming, normal teenager stuff. I sat in the car a moment longer, looking at the little house we called home. It wasn't grand, but it was full of something far more valuable. Love that was chosen, earned, even every single day. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something made me open it. It was a photo of Jennifer in her wedding dress, radiant, surrounded by guests. People who had never once questioned her place in the family. The text read, *, she looked for you during the ceremony. I thought you should know, *. It was from my cousin Rita. I stared at it for a moment. Then I deleted it. Inside, Maya was already seated at the kitchen table, calculus book open again. Same spot where this whole mess had started just a week ago. How's homework going? I asked. Slipping off my shoes, good. Almost done. She looked up. Mom, what do you think happens next? I walked over and rested a hand on her shoulder. I don't know, I said truthfully, but we'll figure it out. Together, and for the first time all week, that felt like enough. The following Wednesday, I drove to Riverview Cemetery. Richard's grave sat beneath the old oak tree he had picked years ago, back when we still believed we had time for things like that. I brought daffodils, his favorite, and arranged them in the metal vase sunk into the earth beside his headstone. Maya had helped me choose the little bench we installed last year. She insisted it needed a backrest, so you won't get stiff when you come sit here. I took my seat on the bench, the granite cool against my palms. Richard, I said, we've got ourselves a situation. The breeze moved gently through the leaves overhead, and for a second, I could almost hear him laugh. He always said Jennifer got her stubborn streak from me, not him. Looks like he was right. Your daughter says Maya isn't family, I murmured. She says I adopted her out of grief, that she's just a project. I reached out and touched the headstone. It was warm from the sun. You used to say love doesn't divide, it multiplies. You said it when Jennifer was little, and I worried I didn't have enough to give. You said it again when we talked about adopting. He'd been sitting in his favorite chair then, facing the garden. We were planning to plant tomatoes and maybe a swing set for the grandkids. He told me I'd have more love than ever, not less. You were right, Richard, I whispered. You'd love Maya. She's got your grit. And your loyalty, too. A bright red cardinal landed on the headstone. Richard always said cardinals were good luck. I smiled at the sight of it. She's not little anymore, I said. She's wiser than most adults I know. She understands family better than Jennifer ever did. The bird tilted its head and stayed a moment longer before fluttering away. I stayed there a while after it left, soaking in the quiet. When I finally stood up, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Back home, I went straight to the whole closet. I pulled down the old photo albums from the top shelf, 8 years of Maya's life with us, tucked away in plastic sleeves and manila folders. I spread everything out on the dining table, the one we only used for holidays and birthdays. This moment felt like both. There was Maya on her first day in our house, age 8, standing in our front hall with a trash bag full of clothes and eyes that didn't trust anyone yet. Another photo, her first Christmas morning, buried in wrapping paper with the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Her elementary school graduation, middle school award nights, a letter from her high school counselor recommending her for early college credit. There were snapshots of birthday parties, Thanksgiving dinners, summer picnics, pictures that started with Moy on the edge of the frame, and over the years, moved her steadily toward the center. By year 3, she was in every shot, usually with an arm draped over someone else. I found one from Jennifer's college graduation. Maya had stayed up late the night before making a handmade sign with glitter and puffy stickers. Jennifer barely glanced at it. There was Maya at 11, learning to use the lawn mower to help me with yard work. Maya at 12, cooking soup when I caught the flu. Maya at 13, winning the school science fair with a project on sustainable gardens. These weren't the memories of a project. These were the memories of a child becoming family. I pulled out my craft box and started arranging everything on a large poster board, nothing fancy, just a clear timeline. At the top, I wrote, **** Maya Stevens, 8 years of family, ****, Below it, in smaller letters, asterisk asterisk family isn't about DNA. It's about showing up. Asterisk asterisk. 2 weeks after the wedding, Jennifer finally called. Mom, we need to talk. I was outside, watering the tomato plants Maya and I had just staked the day before. They were growing strong, despite everything. About what, Jennifer? People have been asking why you weren't at the wedding. It's getting uncomfortable. I turned off the hose and sat down on the back steps. What kind of questions? Well, Derek's aunt cornered me at the country club. She thought maybe there'd been a family emergency. Jennifer's voice tightened. I had to explain. How did you explain it? I asked. I told her you decided to make some kind of statement about Maya instead of supporting me. I watched a butterfly land gently on one of our sunflowers. And what did Derek's aunt say? There was a pause. She asked why Maya couldn't come if she's been your daughter for 8 years. What did you tell her? I said it was complicated. That adoption is different from biological family. That we were just trying to keep things simple. I stood and walked slowly back toward the garden. The peppers were starting to ripen. Did she seem satisfied with that answer? Another pause. No, she said it sounded cruel. Then she walked away. I see, Mom. This is exactly what I didn't want. People judging us. Making me out to be the villain for wanting a peaceful wedding. I crouched beside the pepper plants and pulled a few weeds, my knees cracking slightly as I knelt. Maya would be home soon. We had vegetables to harvest for dinner. What do you want from me, Jennifer? I want you to help me fix this. Call Derek's family. Tell them you weren't upset about Maya being excluded. Say it was mutual, that we decided on an adults-only ceremony. I sat back on my heels. The sun was warm on my back. I can't do that. Why not? Because it's not true, Mom, please. Derek's parents are well connected. This kind of story, if it gets around, it could hurt his career. What story? That you excluded Mara because she's adopted. That you drew a line in the sand based on blood. That's not what we meant. But that's what you did. It's not that simple. It is. There was silence on the other end for a long while. Then Jennifer's voice softened, uncertain. I didn't think it would be such a big deal. Maya's just a kid. She bounced back. No, Jennifer, I said quietly. She's not just a kid. She's your sister. She's been your sister for 8 years. She's not my sister, Jennifer muttered, but it lacked conviction. Then what is she? She's your daughter. That's different. I walked toward the house, phone still to my ear. Through the kitchen window, I could see the memory board, still resting on the counter. 8 years of proof. Do you remember when Maya was 10? I asked. She made you that photo album for your birthday. Barely. She spent weeks on it. Pictures of the two of you. She was so excited to give it to you. I said thank you. And then you stuck it on a shelf in your closet. She asked me a month later if you liked it. I told her you probably kept it somewhere safe. She made you birthday cards every year until she was 14. Drawings, little notes. Do you remember any of them? Where is this going? I want you to understand what you threw away when you decided she wasn't worth a seat at your table. Jennifer didn't respond for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was thin, almost raspy. I can't undo the wedding. It's done, but I need help managing the fallout. There's nothing to manage. You made a choice. Now you get to live with what comes from that choice. So you're just going to let people think I'm the bad guy. I looked again at the board. at the pictures of Maya growing up on the edges at first, then right in the center of everything. I'm not going to tell people what to think. But if they ask me why I wasn't there, I'll tell them the truth. Maya wasn't invited because she's adopted. And I don't attend celebrations where my daughter isn't welcome. Mom, please, I love you, Jennifer. But I'm not going to lie to protect your version of the story. After I hung up, I sat out on the porch with 2 glasses of iced tea. Maya came home a few minutes later, her backpack slung over one shoulder, a few curls stuck to her forehead from the heat. She spotted me and plopped down beside me with a sigh. "Rough call?" she asked. "Jennifer wants me to help her clean up the narrative," I said. "Wants me to tell everyone it was mutual." Maya rolled her eyes and took a sip of tea. "Yeah, because I totally asked not to go to my sister's wedding. She's worried about what people are saying." "What are they saying?" "That it was cruel. That excluding you was wrong." Maya went quiet, watching the late sun cast long shadows across the garden. "Do you think she regrets it?" "I think she regrets the consequences. Whether she regrets the choice itself, I don't know." "There's a difference," Maya said, her voice soft but steady. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the wind rustling through the trees, the clink of ice cubes in our glasses, the occasional bark of a neighbor's dog. Our yard was quiet, peaceful, and full of life. It felt like a life we had built with our own hands. "Mom," Maya said after a while, "Yeah, I'm glad you didn't let her rewrite the story." I looked at her. So young and already wise in ways she never should have had to be. "Me too, baby girl, me too." 3 months later, I received a letter in the mail, handwritten, elegant stationery. The return address was from Derek's mother. Inside was a short note. She said she'd heard the full story from Derek's aunt, the one who'd cornered Jennifer at the country club. She wanted to apologize. She said she had no idea Maya had been excluded because she was adopted. She enclosed a check for Maya's college fund and an invitation to come have tea whenever we were ready. Jennifer never followed up after our last conversation. But word travels fast in families like ours. According to my cousin Rita, the story had made its way around the country club circuit. The tale of the bride who left her adopted sister off the guest list had become something of a cautionary tale. Sometimes, standing up for what's right doesn't change the person who hurt you. But it does change how the world sees what happened, and sometimes, that's the change that matters most. Maya graduated high school with honors that spring. The auditorium was packed. Her teachers came. So did her friends, our neighbors. Derek's aunt and her family even showed up. A few of Jennifer's old high school friends came too, people who'd heard what happened and wanted to show support. Jennifer wasn't there, but Maya didn't seem to notice. She was too busy hugging people who clapped the loudest when her name was called. Back at home, the memory board was still up, covered in photos and certificates and little scraps of life, proof that Maya didn't just belong. She'd earned her place, through love, through time, through everything we'd been through together. That's my story, and now I'd love to hear yours. Would you have gone to that wedding, or would you have stood your ground like I did? Let me know. And if you believe, like I do, that family is who shows up, not just who shares your blood stick.